Are all training plans created equal? My name's Devlin Eyden from CoachParry.com. Today we're going to discuss training plans, and we're going to dig into a little bit of information here today on what you should be looking for in a training plan, potentially how to tweak or adapt that training plan for you as well. I'm going to hand over to Lindsey to kick things off.
So what are you looking for in a training plan? You need to have a critical look at the plan and ask the following questions. Number one, does this plan lean on my strengths as an individual? Is this plan using my strengths to develop me as a runner? Number two, does the plan that I'm working on work on my weaknesses? Because one of the most important ways to improve is to make sure that we address our weaknesses. The third aspect that you want to look at in a plan is it addressing what I need to prepare me for the race that I'm training for? Now, sometimes either your strength and or your weakness will talk to that, but we just need to be clear that the plan you're following is actually going to prepare you for what you would like to train for. And then, does it allow for recovery? As we've said on many videos, and you can click on the screen now to watch a video about recovery, but you can only benefit from the training that you recover from. That is really important. So your training plan must address recovery. So the four aspects we're looking at are: does it leverage my strengths? Does it address my weaknesses? Will it prepare me for the race that I'm training for? And does it allow me to recover? Having given you an idea of what are the types of things you should be looking for in a training plan, what are some of the red flags that should jump out at you in a training plan? The first thing is, does it increase in volume too quickly? We want a very steady progression, and a kind of rule of thumb is progressing by roughly 10% per week in total volume. A second red flag is if a training plan has too much intensity in it. The majority of a training plan, at least 80% of that training plan, should be done at very low intensity. So if you've got more intensity than that in a plan, that's a red flag, and you're likely going to find yourself getting injured on that plan. The other big red flag on a training plan is that a lot of training plans have many weeks of peak training. Now, even elite athletes can only hold their peak training for around 10 to maximum 12 weeks. So if your training plan has more than 8 to 10 weeks at peak training, that would be a big red flag for me.
So one of the biggest mistakes I see people making when they're deciding on a training plan, they decide on the training plan for where they actually want to be, or where they thought they were a couple of years ago, and that's where their potential lies, and not for where you are now. The best way to pick a training plan is to find a training plan that identifies or works with where you are currently. Yes, we might want to get you to a certain point in a couple of months or in a year, but you don't want to be training on that training plan for where you are in a year's time, because that's not going to be specific for where you are currently. Just to give you an example as to why this doesn't work necessarily is let's say you're aiming for sub 3 hour 30 marathon. Currently you're actually only in sub 3:45 or sub 4 hour shape. Essentially the training paces of that plan are going to be a little bit too fast for where you are now, which means that your easy and your long runs are going to be run much faster than what you should be running now, and so you're going to be overextending yourself within those easy and those long runs, creating excess kind of fatigue going into those easy long runs, which then don't let you do your faster runs even as fast as you can. Your body doesn't necessarily have the memory like your brain does, and so we want to be able to train the physiological systems, the muscles, everything for where we are currently, and not necessarily for where we want to be. So that is why we want to train for where we are now, which means that you would then be running those easy and long runs at the right pace and progress over time to eventually running at the paces that you need to for that marathon. Okay, so I'm saying all of this and going, that's great, Shona, that's a nice idea for the future, but how do we get there? Can you assure me that I'm going to be able to get to that goal race? And the way we do that is by what we call progressive overload. Okay, so we're training for where we are now, but we're building blocks on top of that to eventually get to that point. If we just suddenly start training over there, there's this massive gap between where we want to be and where we are now, and we're just not going to get that. And so progressive overload is essentially slowly adding load onto the body in a progressive kind of way, allowing the body to rest and recover, and continually doing that to then build up to where we eventually want to be.
Part of training successfully and continuing to improve as a runner is what do you do when you complete a training plan to make sure that you set the next training plan up properly. And the key there is to assess. Did you achieve your goal? And what are the things that you did that you felt worked really well for you? And what are the things that you did that didn't work so well for you? So we assess. Then we need to reset. What does reset mean? It means we need to give ourselves a little bit of mental and physical recovery time. One of the things that humans, never mind runners, are quite bad at is we don't take any time to process both the success of the achievement and sometimes the disappointment of not meeting our goals. Take time to reset and either appreciate what you've done or process what you failed to do. And then we need to restart again and make sure that we take into account all the things that we've spoken about in the video, plus having assessed what we've done up to this point in time.
If you have an event coming up and you're training for something specific, you know what to look for in a training plan now. Check out our training plans. We have a wide range, everything from couch to 5K to ultra marathon training plans and everything in between. You can click on the link on screen now to check those out. If you'd like to dig a little bit deeper into how to structure things in that training plan a little bit better, check the video on screen now. If you got value out of this video, please hit the like button and also be sure to subscribe to our channel not to miss out on any future content.